Good morning, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I guess it just depends on where you're at in this big thing that we like to call our world. Um, you know, we're not very nice to our world, and some of the rules and regulations and all the other things that we talk about and do in our life, we need to come together and figure out what's in the best interest of human life. So with me, I decided that I was going to get with somebody who I knew was all about making sure people did the right thing and held them accountable. So I reached out to the Oregon mom and we created Sensible Chery. Shit talking with Sensible Chery. Let me introduce you to the only one that I know is just as sensible as me and most of you in the world. Sensible Chery. What's going on?
Oh, not a whole lot this morning.
Okay.
It, there's been a lot going on since we last talked.
Oh, I bet. That's why we're here. If people are talking, then we're doing our job because every day is shit talking Sundays. And just because you're talking shit doesn't mean it's negative. Sometimes it's positive, and we get the word out there because people need to listen. They need to hear. Wake up.
I'm looking forward for a lot more positive news than we've had lately.
Yes, 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 yes. Me too. I think that sometimes I would like to say that since COVID, um, people are some people have had time to reflect on their inner selves because we were forced to sit back, think a little bit because we couldn't go nowhere. And I'd like to say that some people found themselves and have become more sensible. Um, that's why, the fact that when we talked about what was going on in our school system, um, now that you and other people are bringing awareness to what's going on, people are, you know, uh, noticing, they're taking action. They're people. We need to realize that truly, when all the celebrity singers came together and saying, "The children are our future. Let them live and love them and let them lead the way." If we don't nurture them properly and quit corrupting them with our own agendas, man, we're going to have a really, really interesting world where nobody wants to do nothing. Everybody is doing something that just doesn't make sense. I mean, you tell me, what do we got to do?
I think we need to stop getting offended so much, and we need to really start to listen to one another. There's been so many things. It's interesting what you say about society and what we've been doing in regards to what happened with the whole menstrual dignity petition that I submitted, which the reality of it is, for those that may not have heard the last go round, it's a petition that initiated to allow feminine hygiene products in the schools for those that may not have access to them. The original bill was written in such a way that it should be in at least 2 bathrooms in Oregon, and that was great. And then last minute, there was a change that not only should it be in at least 2 bathrooms, but it needed to specify that it should be in female, gender neutral, and boys' bathrooms and K through 12. And that's where the accountability factor came in and the excessiveness, where boys don't menstruate. And the K through 12 side of it, our K through 2 kids can't read. And so there's some irresponsibility going on here where we are potentially exposing children or putting them in a situation where they can thoroughly educated. And so, it was a big one for me. What are we doing? We have legislators in place that seem to be making decisions for us. And all along, I think as a whole, we've kind of blindly just gone with the flow. Like,
Mhm.
we elect people. We haven't really paid attention necessarily to who we are even electing beyond looking at the picture on the voters pamphlet, maybe for those that even vote. Plenty of
Mm.
people don't vote. Um, and so we now, with everything that's going on, like you said, with COVID, it was a huge eye opener. All of a sudden, this classroom was brought into people's homes for those states that forced kids to stay home. And so then you had parents that had visibility to what was going on in classrooms, and not all of it was that great. And
Mhm.
so, and not faulting, this isn't to attack teachers or educators in any way. They were put in a horrible spot. I keep saying you took a plane, being the internet, and you took a car, being our brick and mortar schools. You took all the parts together, threw them together, and said, "Hey, teachers, make this work."
Mhm.
And it didn't go smoothly at all. But I think that a lot of good things came from that. You have, there's environments where some students weren't as comfortable being in school, and so they started excelling. But you
Mhm.
also had a lot of students that needed that social interaction, and it started.
Well, you know, um, I think with all these kids out here, parents realize how much work teachers really have to do on a day-to-day basis. And I mean personally, I feel that teachers are underpaid. Um, when I was on the school site council, like I said the last time, there was a principal that I was working with, and the lady was phenomenal. She was definitely all about the children. She taught elementary school, and then they moved her up to the school board. I mean, to the school district level. I don't know where she's at now, but she would always try to make moves and things, even if um, the budget didn't necessarily allow it. She would find a way to bring parents together to help fund for their own, children. And, we need more of those. That's why I think that our budget, the way that it's spent so frivolously, some of that money could be geared towards our teachers to help motivate them to want to work harder than they are now. Not that they're not working harder, but it's you break them down so much that the joy of educating is going away because our kids are having no discipline in the schools.
That's big. Yeah, no, there. Well, and that's just it. And the reality of it is, it starts at home. We have a lot of behavior issues that seem to be escalating the higher you get up in the grades. Seems middle school is when it might start to peak, but schools don't have the ability to discipline children, and so you have referrals and things like that. And this is one of the things that's frustrated me a lot, is the fact that to have a child that, if you're skipping uh, school, or maybe not turning in assignments, maybe you're cussing every now and then, that's something that could be worked on. But when you have children that are throwing desks in classrooms,
Mhm.
hitting people, they could be a physical threat. That's a problem. And the fact that, I'm trying to figure out where that line is, where I understand that everybody has a right to a free, fair public education, but
Mhm.
at what point does that need to be reevaluated? If an individual coming into the classroom is more of a disruption to the rest of the class, and you are now taking away from the other students' education, that's not fair to them either.
Yeah, I agree. The hard part of that whole scenario is you know, so when you buy a home, your tax dollars goes for your county that you live in, right? The breakdown for paying for the fire department, the schools, the parks, everything that's in your neighborhood. Um, I get the fact that in the more affluential neighborhoods, there's more money going into it because of the price of the homes. But if you think about it, it can't be that much different because those houses are so big and there's so much land encumbering them that when you add up all these 20 houses that you put in the same amount of land, you put these big $1 million, multi-million dollar, multi-acre estates on, the tax money should kind of even out a little bit. Not totally, but I would think that it should even out to some extent. And all the money that's going to our school systems, it just, you could see the divide from the haves and the have-nots. The poor neighborhood schools have no technology that's going to get them out of the place that they're at. I mean, think about this. I mean, this makes sense. If everybody was rich, who's going to work? Who wants to go in there and do picking all our fruits and vegetables? Who wants to go out there and build our cars? Who wants to go out there? Who wants to wash our towels when we go to hotel rooms if we got money coming out of our gluteus maximuses? So it makes sense that there has to be haves and have-nots. Has to be. Or we can't be as lazy as we are, because if we continue to just want to, it seems like the more money you get, the more entitled you feel that, hey man, go get that for me. Hey, I need that. Hey, do this, do that. Instead of, okay, I'll go get that myself. And that's part of the problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've got, there's so many things, this whole victim mentality. I've always said that if my mother had raised me, that because of the color of my skin, that I wasn't going to have a chance in life, or I was going to have to work 10 times harder. There's some truth to how you have to work, but it all comes down to character. Integrity and stuff like that. You see a lot of backlash of people being targeted or saying, well, I never get a fair chance. And if you start digging deep into a lot of stories, it's a accumulation of a bunch of choices. We have to start making better choices. You can't have a criminal life constantly and think that you're going to end up on the good side. Right. It's just like there, and it starts at a young age. It's funny. I remember when my son was little. I don't know. He was like 3, and him and his buddy were had like a kid's book. They just, and it was like all of a sudden they're just reading a kid's book, and all of a sudden I go in the room and it's like they covered it up, and I'm like, where did that come from? Those things start early. And so I have made a point to have tons of conversations. It's like you don't hide stuff. You're always truthful. We've gone down that road a lot. And for him, when there's consequences there, that we don't, this whole counting to 3 thing, or, putting kids in corners, I don't get to 3. He knows, but I've heard, you've got parents that'll count to 3, you count to 3 1,000 times, kids realize it doesn't mean anything. If there's no consequences for what they're doing. And unfortunately, I think that we have so many different dynamics of whether it's broken home or some kind of trauma, and you have split homes, and you have, family, you have one parent that is feeling like they're needing to compensate for the other parent, or they have sympathy for their children. But what we don't realize is our kids need boundaries.
Right.
And if they don't have them, they will run wild. And as adults with experience, we should be guiding them, right, and helping them to understand. One of the things that I was thinking about coming into the show this morning was back to that Menstrual Dignity Act, and the fact that, we have a group of people, and it comes down to identity. How do you identify? And I'm not going to lie and say that boys menstruate, because they don't. And so you can identify as a boy, But if you have a uterus and you ovulate, you're going to menstruate no matter how you identify between, once you hit puberty to menopause. And so to uh, not speak this truth to our children. To me, there should be age. We have age restrictions for so many things, and that's one of the things. Like for in Oregon, you can start puberty blockers at
Mhm.
the age of 15. You can get reassignment surgery. There was just a story. I think her name was Chloe Cole out of California, where between 13 and 15, she had started. Puberty blockers, and I believe she had her breasts removed at 15 years old, and now I think she's 18 or so, and she's like, I may never be able to have kids again. There's a lot of choices that we make under in our teenage years. We don't know, our brain hasn't fully developed
Mhm.
until we're in our mid 20s. So why would we allow children to make decisions that significant that they may not be mature enough to understand? We have an age limit for what? Voting, drinking alcohol, driving. You would think that there would be a degree of responsibility that, what, maybe something that could alter your life for the rest of your life, you should wait until a specific age. They won't even give, uh, don't quote me on this, but I don't think they will even allow certain women to have a hysterectomy at a certain age without, some huge exception because, well, what if you change your mind? If it were medical reason, I get it. But, just on the whim, nope, I don't want my, uh, just pull it all out. It's like, no, we have to start thinking long term.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, just right now, this is the Roe v. Wade stuff that's going on, where people, I mean, look, I get the fact that abortions, it's such a gray area for me. Should it be legal or illegal? I definitely would say it shouldn't be illegal, because there is definitely circumstances that warrant that that procedure. But if you are out there just being careless, having sex and getting pregnant and just not caring because you guys are just unsafe, to terminate maybe once, I might even say twice. But if you are just a habitual, you just don't care, you're not learning any lessons, then I feel that at that point, no, your right should be taken, because those are lives. No matter what, the Most High has granted us the ability to procreate between a man and a woman. So if we stop allowing those things to happen naturally, man, we're playing with a whole bunch of other things, especially the fact that right now I mean, in some places, I'm sure they're cloning, if not have already cloned a human.
I know. I laugh. Remember the sheep that
Yeah,
they had cloned?
yeah.
And it's funny. It's like, you have people that be like, oh, they wouldn't do this, they wouldn't do that. And I'm like, do you really think that if they've actually successfully cloned a sheep, that they've never tried to clone anything else?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, th- there there was a guy that I met in my Storage Wars days, helping out a friend when he was doing it. Um, there was a guy that I was talking to, and he claimed to be someone who worked in Area 51. He said to me that us as humans have already crossbred humans and chimpanzees, or was it orangutans? The big ones the one that you saw on Clint Eastwood, his old movie. What was his movie? Man, I can't remember the name of it. But he had the big ape. What left turn, Clyde? And he would throw a punch out the window and hit the officer or whoever's outside the window, the crook or the criminal or whatever, and boom, and then they would ride off. But yeah, they said that they crossed them with the intention to hope that they would naturally be able to communicate with primates and learn uh, English, to speak, you know, our human language. And I thought that that was really interesting. It got deeper than that, but we're getting off track. But yeah, the fact that we're doing all these other things, you can't just sit here and assume that we're nobody's doing, you know, anything out of the ordinary. I mean, we have too
No,
many
well,
chemicals.
and well, yeah, no, and evil hasn't gone away.
Yeah,
It's just like it's just gotten better at hiding.
yeah,
You and it's interesting to me all of the stuff that the media will choose to shine a light on.
hmm
I think I just even on Facebook had noticed that there was it's like how you had all the COVID warnings. So now
hmm
you probably will be flagged because I've said it. And that here's the resources. Well, I just remember the other day someone was talking about climate change. Now they're doing these climate change flags where, like, if there's any mention of it, all of a sudden there's this warning. Here's the real, here's resources. And I'm like, wow, if they have that kind of technology to do stuff like that, don't you think it should be a little bit easier to maybe go after children trafficking? Any
absolutely. You would think.
anything, it's just, and to think, there's even, I think, I don't know, I had seen something where they had gone down like this thing. I think they were like the Connexes, those big storage units that
Mhm.
had toilets and stuff in them. And they're like, they are breeding children that won't have a birth certificate to do whatever they want with them. You don't, it's like you think about all of these places like the abortion clinics and stuff like that. And I'm with you that there's a fine pro choice, pro life. There's a time and a place for everything. I think we need to look at the bigger picture. Back to the whole Oregon thing, we allow abortions up till 9 months. I,
Up to nine
I don't,
months.
up to 9 months.
Oh my goodness, that is crazy. You know,
Right.
hold on, we got to touch on that. For anybody out there who thinks it's cool to to have an abortion at 9 months and think that you're not killing a a human being, my grandson was months premature. I want to say he was 3 or 4 months premature. He only weighed 1 pound, maybe 2 ounces, 1 ounce, something in that neighborhood. He fit in my hand, head to toe. His hand was no bigger than my fingernail. His whole hand, fingers included. Okay, he is now uh in his double digits in age. Okay, so if you think that aborting a child at 6 months of pregnancy isn't murder, you killed the baby. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it because I know for a fact that babies survive at 6 months. I know for a
Mhm.
fact babies survive only being incubated in a mother's womb for 5 months. So anything past that, for sure, positively, without a doubt in my mind, you are killing another human being. And, you're going to face that wrath when you see the Most High. Um, the problem that I have as a father with abortion, um, I feel like maybe when I was younger, before I was an adult, where I really could make legal decisions, I may have, and I'm not even going to say that this is for fact, but let's just say assume that somebody who's 18, less than 18 years old, if they got a girl pregnant, yeah, I could definitely see where abortion is necessary. Only because they're not even mentally ready. They can't even take care of themselves unless their mothers and fathers are going to give them money to take care of themselves and their kids. And then if you're not going to guide them properly to be able to become something in society, now you've created a monster and a monster's child, because both of them are going to be going nowhere along with the mother unless somebody's going to step up in that family and become mature and grow. And that's the problem. We don't have discipline with our children. They run amok. They have no respect for authority, adults. So for me, man, as a dad, I want to be able to have a say so. When you're past 18, if you want to have an abortion, both the mother and the father should have to sign off. There should be some steps. It shouldn't be just that easy that you can walk in
Right.
and say, "Hey, I need an abortion." No blood test to prove that. Hey, I don't own 50% of that baby that's in you right now. I mean, I know it's your body, but the fact that you agree, having sexual relations should be more than just having sex for gratification. The consequences, you should understand that there's more consequences than just busting a nut. Sorry to be so explicit with everybody, but every time you have sex, the potential of having a baby is there. I'm not going to say it's good, bad, great, whatever, but it's there. So the fact that it's there should be some responsibility. And if one side wants to be more responsible than the other, then that's where it starts. It shouldn't be when the baby is born, because the baby is already growing at a certain stage. Okay, look, if you want abortions to be legal, then all right, up until this age, abortions are legal. And at that point, there's really not a way to prove he's the father. He's the father. We can't put you on Maury while you're pregnant. And he says, okay, due to the by our tests and through DNA labs, whatever, you are not the father. So you ain't got no say so in this abortion. But if it when we get to an incubation period where the baby is actually viable, and you can do a blood test to prove, yeah, you are the father, he has a right to say, nah, and then you can sign a piece of paper that says, as soon as I have this baby, the baby is yours. I don't want nothing to do with it.
Well, and that you make a great point though, because it's just like, what or would happen if all of a sudden the men's rights activists come together and decide, you know what, we should be able to force a woman to have a child if we know it's ours. How would that go over?
Okay. Yeah, I agree to a certain extent. I mean, there has to be proof that you guys were in a agreeable, you had agreed relations. I'm not saying that if a person, male or female, rapes somebody else, you could be forced to have that child. I think in that instance, you should have the right as a female to say, I'm not having that baby. I did not want it. I was forced. And then at that point, the fact that we can prove through DNA that you're the father and you did it, now we can go through the whole thing of, we could prove you had sex, but the problem would be proving that they had rape. Because I'm telling you that if we started doing something like that, there would be people on both sides that would use that to their advantage to keep you there. He raped me.
Well, that's the problem. We go down, you're going down the road of exceptions, and we are getting to the point where we are making the exceptions the rules. So instead of saying, whether you're freedom, you're pro-life or pro-choice, it's just like, well, abortion is legal in some states. And that's the other thing, like, people don't, it's just like this whole, the overturn from the Supreme Court is because the Supreme Court is sending it back into the state's hands, which is pretty much where it should have been too, because basically the Supreme Court is federally protecting murder within reason, and it should be at a state level, and each state can decide, viability and all of that other kind of stuff. So it's not like it has removed abortion from all of the states. However, there are some that had some retroactive laws that if they were not forced to, have had abortion available, they wouldn't. But then you have some, like I said, like Oregon, where it's 9 months. It's like, well, what about some kind of balance? Can we really start getting at a point where we can sit at a table and say, you know what, I believe in, being pro-choice, but pro-choice at the point when you have a viable child is murder, and maybe we should have some other criteria. having the discussion at least. Do we
Absolutely.
agree with this?
Absolutely.
Should there be some, because if you knew the rules, I'm sorry, I think, if people were getting their hands and fingers removed if they stole, I think that you'd have a lot less thieves. Not to say that you wouldn't, because there's always going to be those people, but it's the degree that's the punishment.
The only problem
And
with
so
that,
if
hold on,
there's,
hold on. The only problem with that idea is say, oh, she stole, that's
well,
mine.
I know.
And then so that's where, hey, look, I got a camera up here that shows you stole my stuff. You show my shit talking Sunday shit. Chop that finger off, right? Then that could be one way of understanding. But
it goes to the exception again. The exception is if you don't know who did it. We're talking, solid cases where you absolutely know this is what happened. Would it not be a deterrent if it's just like, okay, I might get away with this, but if I don't, I know that there is a significant consequence. Would that deter you?
okay,
We're not talking
okay.
about just being accused, and that's the thing. You shouldn't be able to be just accused. That happens a lot nowadays.
Chime
I mean, I've
in,
already been.
chime in.
I have now been accused of being transphobic because I didn't want tampons in boys' bathrooms.
I mean, that's ridiculous. Anybody out there who thinks that she's transphobic, let me ask you a question. So you got a guy who identifies as a girl, decides that in elementary school, because it's these feminine hygiene products are in the elementary school level, has the surgery. He is now a female. I guess at sixth grade, he decides, I think it's my week of menstrual. I'm going to wear feminine hygiene products for 3 to 5 days just so I can go through the motion. Doesn't make sense. No disrespect to anybody out there who identifies. If you truly feel that way, the Most High gave you a very difficult card, at least in my opinion, to have to deal with. The fact that you're dealing with it the best way you can, man, I applaud you. But don't fabricate things to fit your agenda so that it could be forced upon our children to have to follow in your footsteps. Just like we talked last time about sex ed being taught to our children at such early ages. They don't even know, they don't even understand what sex is, and you want to throw it in front of them. What if we as parents are sheltering our children from even knowing what sex is because maybe in junior high school they start to hear about it because a lot of other parents don't want to, I'm not saying we all shouldn't have that talk with our kids, but there's an appropriate time when you see your kids reaching puberty where changes are happening, they're growing hair in places. Now is a good time to talk to them. That's usually around 7th grade. Okay. I get it. Below that, and even at 7th grade, there should be a limit to how far you go. When I went to school, we talked about the basic birds and the bees. Boys have this, girls have this. This is how kids are created, and left it alone because now you understand. Now, if your mind wanders beyond that, that's because of your own environment that you have submerged. But the fact that we keep submerging them deeper and deeper and deeper to other people's agendas is crazy to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, and where did we get to a point, with gender roles? Maybe it's the gender roles that's the bigger issue. In today, what I'm seeing now with how it's being so ingrained into our schools and stuff like that. I was a huge tomboy, and I was looking at some of the definitions from something that came through to me. So many different descriptions and labels within this community, and I'm like, I could have fallen in multiple categories when I was younger. And I'm a happily married woman today. And if I was in an environment where people were telling me, well, maybe you were just meant to be a boy all along. And being as impressionable as I was in those ages, it's just like I was the one who jumped off my roof after watching Mary Poppins with the umbrella. We had a short roof. I'm like, oh, it's smart. I know it wasn't that high. I'm like, I shouldn't get. I want to see if it doesn't work. How many things would we potentially try in our youth before we realize? I've got a lot of life experience where I've gone through a lot of things where I'm like, I know better than to try that. But if we don't, and it's not about sheltering them, because I'm not saying that you won't run into people that believe that, but like you said, it's just like we are all unique individuals from the womb. We were created with purpose. We were created individually, and to not realize how special we are and that we all have a purpose. We may want to change things. I'm not a natural blonde. It's just like, but it doesn't mean that you have to go to complete extremes. If somebody were to come up to me and say, you are not a blonde, I'm like, you're right, but I like the hair color. We should be able to, actually, I'm trying to mask my grays is what I'm trying to do. But if we could, who decided, if you're in this profession, you should be male. If you're in this profession, you should be female. If you like glitter, if you want your nails painted, if you wear a dress, there are so many dynamics that are man-made that maybe if we weren't so, oh my gosh, if you have long hair, and giving our children a hard time, if we started reevaluating, would a child, when they are children, I'm not talking about adults who've gone into, or they felt that way from they were little, but if you were younger and you were never made to feel different, that it was just accepted that you could be different without having to change your anatomy in some way, how many people would still feel the need to change?
Right. Man, I'm not sure. I was going to go back to when we were talking about abortion and stealing and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. If to have an abortion, since the two of you have come together and decided to have a child, what if, in order to have an abortion, to truly feel the pain, you chop a pinky off, both of you have to lose a body part. If you want to have an abortion, that's the cost. It costs, you made a mistake, you played the game, boom. Both of y'all submit a pinky, and we could do it, safe and humane, give you a little numbing and put your finger on a thing, take a little scalpel. You can watch it if you want to. The separation of the separation of church and state. Boom. cut that shit right on off. How many of you out there would still consider procreation? Or would you still want an abortion? I mean, you can only do it so many times before we start chopping off bigger digits. So how many times? Well,
that's the thing. Yeah, no, it's just like even if people that would say, well, that's inhumane and all, but like you said, you could make it humane. I think that it just shows how much we've devalued life. Mm-hmm. That the fact that we don't even think about some of these things, and that it is a being inside of you growing, and that there are other options. I mean, there are people that try to. I mean, the cost for adoption is ridiculous. And so what if you just happen to match up somebody who does not want to have a child with somebody who does want to have a child, that maybe they can't? There's so many areas that it's just like, can we look at this picture a little broader?
The problem with your idea that they're gonna say is there's too much room for people to just get in line, fake the funk, and now we'll sex traffic kids and we'll just adopt them through the system, and they'll get
That
lost in
goes
the
back
system.
to accountability. This is a big deal. We have zero accountability. If we actually started having accountability, same thing, like even with, people that have gotten state assistance. If you've been on unemployment, I was on unemployment for a short period of time, and I was very blessed that it was like within a week I had gotten a job. But I've heard stories of people that apply for jobs because that's all you have to do for the most part is prove that you're applying, that then they don't even go to the interviews. Like there's not even backtrack. Like to have money go towards something that is, it can very well be needed versus those who are abusing it. This is the problem. People would have less of a problem with helping and state assistance if they knew that there was accountability in the program, as opposed to just being able to lie your way through, or just not do anything. Like even the idea, it's like, okay, so if you can't find a job, or maybe you're in a situation where you don't want to accept a job because in order for you to be able to survive, you can't accept a lower paying job, then there should be like volunteer requirements or stuff like that. There should be things that don't make it easier for you to be dependent. And in the same instance, there's also extremes, because I know through stuff that I've seen, it's just like you start get a little bit of a get ahead, and they pull everything away. It's like from one extreme to the other.
The problem with some of that, the assistance part of it, um, you have so many MIA other parent that sometimes it's too difficult for the single parent, especially when you're dealing with a child or more than one child that are still in their not even old enough to go to school. They're still in diapers. Because of the way society is right now, a lot of people, male and female, are hesitant to send their children to daycare because people are doing strange things to people's loved ones. And sometimes you're forced to do it. For me, I think that if you're getting assistance, the DA, I feel, should be getting involved if the other parent is MIA. Whoever the custodial parent is, hey man, kudos to you. Hats off to you at the fact that you stepped up and you taking care of your kids, and hopefully you're doing the honorable thing and raising them properly. If the other parent is MIA, I feel the DA should be going after them. You created the child, don't abandon your children. Man up, or woman up, for that matter, because there are deadbeats on both sides. I'm a example of having a deadbeat parent, other parent. Mine ain't helping. Mine ain't doing nothing. So, at some point you got to just realize what's more important. You out there going partying or taking care of your children, preparing them for the life that you messed up on. Because partying until, your age of 80 isn't going to get you nowhere in life.
But what about and that's the thing, like, what about educating? Because I have, it's like I'm married and with my 10-year-old son, but I had a child at 17 and deadbeat dad. And it's just like, at what point, if there was, where's that line between parenting and the education system where we could understand that? If I knew everything that I was going to go through with my daughter, things would have been, it's like today, it's just like everything that I've gone through some stuff, but everything that I've gone through has made me who I am today. So I'm one of those people that would say, would I go back and change it? I'd love to say, yeah, there's a lot of things I would like to have not had to have dealt with, but everything that I dealt with has made me who I am today. Absolutely. So in that respect, I wouldn't want to go back and change it. But I wish that there was more education and understanding of all of the consequences. And that's the thing. We need a better understanding of what is entailed. Just carrying the egg around, I think that we had to do when I was younger or what have you. It's not enough. We need people to understand the full concept of when you make a choice to have sexual relations, and then this is what can come from it. It can change the outlet of your entire life. You make a choice to do drugs for that first time. You might be somebody who just dabbles, goes on about their day, but you might be somebody who ends up in a life of addiction. We have to, and it's like the whole don't talk about it. That's the problem. We have gotten to the point where it's like, oh, we don't want to talk about this, we don't want to talk about that, but nobody knows how to talk about it. And so how do we get to a point where we are educating people and we are talking about these things, so it's not just don't have sex? Well, why? It's just, these blatant statements of, well, you should never have an abortion, or we have every right to have an abortion. We make these blanket statements and we don't go into any detail as to all of the potential long-term consequences. And that's the thing. It's this like instant, immediate decisions that are made, and we've got this pendulum where we're going to one extreme to the next. Like all the mental institutions were shut down. I'm sorry, that's part of the reason that we have a big problem. I mean, we have a lot of people that have mental health issues. Was there some shady stuff going on in institutions back in the day? I'm sure there were. That's where maybe a reform comes in. And make sure that we're not abusing people, we're actually helping them. But to shut them all down and then look where we are today, it's not working, it's broken. Can we stop ignoring the fact that we have a broken system and start actually seeing what are some true solutions where we can get ahead?
You know, it's just amazing, right? I mean, I'm not saying that we shouldn't help other countries, because yes, that by all means, our country has so many different racial makeup that I believe we should be helping other countries, but not to the detriment of our own. The fact that we can come up with money, emergency fund to send to here or send to there, man, that's great, man. But we have emergencies here. We have homeless here. We have veterans that went and fought for these freedoms, and now are on the streets. And we've just said, you'll be all right, and we'll give you a little bit of money. The money that you give them isn't enough to survive. I mean, yes, government assistance, yes, it helps to those who really need the help. It helps. To those who they just want an extra, I don't know. That one's a touchy subject. So,
well, and it goes to like the plane. Like when you get on a plane and you go through the safety check, what do they tell you? When the masks come down to protect you for the breathing, what are you supposed to do first? You're supposed to put it on yourself and then help others. Right. So why are we not looking at our own and helping our own United States and then going out and helping others?
There is no financial gain to put more people on dependency. Right now, to make I would say a community of people forage, maybe that's a better word, forage for their food, makes sense to somebody up there who runs all the rules and regulations that make our society run. Does it make it right? I don't think so. There shouldn't be a single hungry person in a superpower country. Any country that considers themselves a superpower, there should be no hungry people. In some of these foreign countries where they're considered a global superpower, man, for you to be such a global superpower, your peoples are starving. Look at North Korea. Most of North Korea is living in the Stone Age. We don't know that. We don't see that. Uh, I'm not going to say I've been to North Korea, but I have been to South Korea. And I've lived in South Korea a very long time. And I know what I know. And I'm going to tell
Mhm.
you that they live pretty bad over there. So, um, society growing starts with the people in power. And there's a reason why people are in power and keep their power. If we don't set term limits, look, there was a reason why the president could only serve 2 4-year term limits. Because if he didn't, the position to become great with executive orders, to become a dictator, was very big. So if our, our Congress proves that we need term limits, some of these
Mhm.
long term congressmen, we need people in Congress that are growing with our generations. We have people in Congress who are still living on systems that are not as efficient as we've evolved to.
Mhm.
So I believe that if we had, I mean, the ability to elect, like, hey, look, the people that have been there 20, 30 years, how can a public servant who has devoted their life to being a public servant to the people have more money than most of the people that they live around or that they work for? How
Mhm.
are all these congressmen multi millionaires when they were, I'm not going to say broke as a joke when they got in, but they weren't as balling as they are. Last time I checked, their salaries weren't millionaire status salaries. How are they making all this money? What, side gigs? Then obviously you're not working hard enough for us.
Well, and that's just it. We are the people, and we've forgotten that. It's just like for some reason, it's just like we're getting all these mandates and everything pushed from the top down, but we are the people that are supposed to be in control. And so if you are in legislation and you are not listening to the people, it's time for a change. And
Absolutely.
that's why, that was the whole thing, like with this petition that I had done. It came to the point where I watched mandates come through and I'm like, I'm not trying to be unreasonable. It's I have differing views and I think that there's bigger pictures, but can we get to a common ground? And so to find out that when these rules come into place, that these agencies, we have so many agencies in place making these rules for us to abide by. Um, and they do these public comment periods that are so like it would be an act of Congress to figure out when the public comment period is going to be. And so all these rules upon rules are being implemented, and then all of a sudden people are like, well, how come we have to do that? What's going on? I didn't get a chance to, I didn't hear anything about that. Well, that's part of, like, guess what? Figure out what's going on in your state. Figure out where you can take a stance, because this petition, even some of the legislators that I've talked to weren't aware that the average citizen could petition a rule. And so, what does it do? To me, it gives us a chance. You know what? We, the people, not all of us agreed with this rule. I'm not saying to totally remove the rule as it is. I'm just saying listen to another side that has some additional input, and let's figure out where we can come to some common ground where we can agree with this.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe we'll get to the point, instead of all of these rules being pushed through that we're just expected to abide by, they'll start reconsidering, oh, wait, the people have the ability to go back and complain about what we put through. Maybe we should make sure that we're reaching out to them and really thinking things through ahead of time.
Hmm.
That's all I want. I want us to be able to have a seat at the table. We are supposed to have a seat at the table, and not everybody does.
Right,
And we
right.
need to change that.
Absolutely. You know, there's two sides. That's the problem. Just like right now, the Dems and the Repubs, um, they want to be so far left and so far right that they forgot that you have to give and take on both sides. If you don't, there's constant friction, and
Hmm.
there will always be battles, and we will never have solutions, and we'll be constantly wasting tax dollars on fighting things that should be dead issues. You know, find a common ground, find the things that will make things more, how can I put it, uh, to the point where you can agree that, okay, this makes sense. Just like you said, we were talking about, if you want abortion, as soon as a fetus is viable, arms, legs, heartbeat, all those little things that no matter how faint the heartbeat is, life is in creation. There should be a, nope, too late. I'm sorry that you waited too long to realize that you were pregnant. If you were raped, you should have went immediately and reported it, and then you could deal with it. Boom, you have a reason to be able to deal with it. But also, now that fetus is DNA, and when you eventually, that person eventually hits the system, you can prove that you did what you did. Here's all the cases of it, because you did it to this girl, this girl, this girl, this girl, this girl, and this girl, because they're all having abortions and they're all claiming to have been raped. We have the DNA fetus uh, uh, results. At some point, when a person goes to the hospital, not to say that we should infringe on those rights as well, because that's once again another touchy subject. But if a person is a rapist, I'm sure they're doing some other types of crimes as well. And you will eventually get into the system. And when you're caught, boom, it's in the system. Not because of one person, but because you've raped all these other women who there's a pattern. Boom. Now you're held accountable. I mean, there's so many different ways that we could look at things and have it pan out where people could be accountable for it. The transgender thing. Hey, look, I'm not homophobic. AG the dad is not homophobic. I'm not homosexual. And if that's what you want to do, do you. Okay. But it shouldn't be right to be forced on somebody else. Even if you find them attractive and they tell you, hey man, that ain't my thing, you shouldn't continue to try to press the issue by saying, no, come on, you don't knock it till you try it and all that. Just like if a man or woman was harassing their opposite sex. Oh, what's up? You gonna let me hit that? No, no, thank you. I'm not interested. What, you don't knock it till you try it, and you keep harassing them and harassing them and
Hmm.
harassing them. It's still harassment. Okay.
Hmm.
So there has to be a fine line. I'm not knocking what you do. Do you? I don't care, but don't force it upon me or my children. If my child decides he wants to be that, hey, that's his decision. I'm not gonna chastise him for it, but at the same token, I'm not gonna influence it. I want him to develop his own social skills and her own social skills based on her own life experiences with a little bit of my guidance from their mother and their father, and let them make the choices. The school system shouldn't be in there. Just like that's the whole reason why the founding fathers created the separation between church and state. When those two got together, that's when things really started getting complicated, and laws shouldn't be written based on that, because there's too many different people out there representing too many different religions for it to get tied up in government, because you can't let one and not the other, because all the other religions that are anti-abortion, if they all stood up, then what religion are you going to just go and enforce? So you open up too many things by doing it that way. Keep it simple, keep it basic as far as those laws, and come to some senses. People need to be able
Mhm.
to make sensible decisions, enact policies that will hold people accountable. Accountability. I mean, just like I said, I mean, maybe chopping off a finger is far fetched, but there should be some restrictions. There should be some
Mhm.
accountability. You can't just go around getting each other pregnant and have, be okay. Well, I'll just pay this as the guy. Hey, I'll pay $20 or $300, $1,000, $1,500, whatever it costs to have the abortion. And
Well, that's
that's
the thing. In some states, it's not even you making that decision. The states made it for you, the taxpayers. So
right.
it's just like, even if you are somebody who maybe you don't agree with it, should you not have say that the money that you pay taxes for, whether it goes to that or not?
We do have say, and that comes from voting. But just like we've said many times, if you don't stand up for what you believe in, get out the way, because we will.
Mhm.
Somebody else is going to stand up for it. If you don't want to get out the way, don't be part of the problem. If you don't like it, speak up. If Especially if you have
Mhm.
children. If there's any children, if there's any parents out there who have school age children, man, chime in, hit me up. We're looking for people in every state of the union to join the cause. Sensible Chery, she wants more people to help fight the movement. I think that the more people are aware, the more change that will come. The more awake you become. Like I said, shit talking doesn't have to be synonymous with negativity. You hit the lottery, you are going to call your bestie and you going to say, "We rich biscuit." So why not shit talk now in a positive way to make change? You know, Sensible Chery, I want to thank you for our time. We ran over, but doesn't mean that we're not going to continue this next week, same time, same place. Please email me. I'm AG the Dad at Shit Talking Sundays. If you have a message for Sensible Chery, AG the
Mhm.
Dad, um, I don't have a problem addressing it. Um, Comments or concerns, um, I mean, ideas you want us to just check in with. If you want to be a guest on our show, reach out to me. My email is right there. You know what? I'm gonna go so far as to give you the hotline, because I mean, it ain't no fun if you ain't got my number. So you can call me anytime you want. Uh, we can discuss hot topics. If you got a show idea, hit me up. And me and Sensible Chery, we're going to discuss your idea. We'll do some research on it and find out, especially if it's dealing with our children, because
Mhm.
man, our women, our boys and girls of under the age of 18, those are our future. If we don't
Mhm.
guide them right, look, let me back up a little bit. If we don't start making change with our current generation that we have created as adults and parents, our next generation after that is going to be even worse. Um, so the problem that we're having now isn't going to be solved overnight. It can't be. It's been too long. Too many things have been happening. So the only way to make change now is to educate our future. So if we educate our future, a generation from now, we will see improvement. Um, we, as older and wiser people, should be more sensible and make sense to the fact that if we're going to go out there and want change, we can't just speak it. We have to enforce it. We have to educate. We have to be role models, leaders, lead by example. Our youth are watching. When they see us smoking, they see us drinking, they see us partying, they want that life too. So if we're constantly doing those things, what do you think's going to happen? If you have anything you want to say in closing, speak now, forever hold your peace.
Just speak up, people. It's going to take all of us to really, and be willing to listen. We just, shouldn't be a dividing topic. We need to get united. And so it's just like, if you really want to be heard and you're willing to listen, and plead your side and figure out a way where we can come together and make good choices for our children.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for showing up today. I know we started a little bit late. We had some technical difficulties, and from what I'm understanding, we still have that echo. So we're gonna work on that. The next show will definitely be fixed, and we're gonna fix that problem. I guess the devil is a liar, and he doesn't want us to be able to speak no truth. So thank you again. I'm AG the dad. That was Sensible Chery. Hey, look, she loves her children. She loves her life. She, like she says, if she was raised by her skin color, man, things would be way different for her now. If you look at everybody as human beings instead of colors, and how can I put it? Gender, and look at people as people, I think we will get further, go further. And just remember, our earth is dying. I'm not one of those people. Nothing is going to just continue forever. It may take billions and billions of years for that to happen. But if we can't agree to disagree so that we are as humans, we are curious people. So the universe is big and vast, and why not work together to try to take us into deeper and further realms of life and see what else life has to offer us besides fighting over this piece of land when the universe is so much greater. People fight over the purity of their race, the purity of their gender, the purity of this and that. And instead of trying to force everybody to have the same views as you, focus on the things that make sense and not force people to want to think like you. Because if we all thought like each other, we would never evolve into shit. Because out here in the world, man, life, I, I I don't know how to fly a plane, and there's people out there that know how to fly a plane. They wanted to fly a plane. I never had no dream to want to fly a plane. I've always thought about wanting to scuba dive and go down underneath the depths of sea and see what has to be explored and discovered under the sea, because 70% of the earth hasn't even been explored. So come on, y'all. Quit fighting over things that don't make sense. I'm AG the dad. This is Shit Talking Sundays. Shit Talking with Sensible Chery. I mean, we will be back. We will show you the greater things in life. Stay blessed. Be blessed. Because if you ain't worried about you and your future and your loved ones, obviously you can see that nobody else out there cares, and they will run your family if you ain't gonna want, to give them some guidance. So be blessed and be safe out there. Love you guys. Peace.